All right, let's dive right into this explainer and literally tear up those Hollywood scripts. Today, we're looking at the actual, real-world realities of White House security. It's a topic that's always been shrouded in mystery, and honestly, the real defenses are way wilder than anything you've ever seen in the movies. We're going to break down exactly how the sitting president of the United States is protected against almost any conceivable threat, using the documented protocols that keep this iconic building safe.
We've all seen those action blockbusters, right? The ones depicting the White House being easily breached by a swarm of drones or some massive ground attack playing out right on the North Lawn, or maybe a rogue aircraft somehow magically slipping past the radar. But the reality? It tells a drastically different, far more secure story. When you look at the actual defensive systems in place, those cinematic plots just instantly fall apart. The reality isn't a dramatic, loud shootout. It's a silent, invisible, and overwhelmingly powerful network of layered defenses.
Think of this explainer as a map of the fortress. We're going to start with the ultimate fortress concept, move on to defending the skies, check out the ground perimeter, step inside the Oval Office itself, and finally head down into the deep underground survival bunkers. So, Section 1, the ultimate fortress, separating cinematic myth from heavily fortified reality.
You know how Hollywood loves those dramatic physical breaches to build tension? Well, the real White House relies on something way more effective: invisible, layered defenses. We're talking immediate threat interception and highly restricted airspace. There is simply no sneaking up on this building. The security systems are designed to identify and completely neutralize a threat long before it ever becomes visible to the public eye.
Moving deeper into our concentric circles, we hit Section 2, defending the skies, the invisible anti-missile shields and aerial restrictions. Before an intruder's foot even touches the grass, they have to deal with a severely restricted no-fly zone overhead. This airspace is constantly monitored by advanced radar. If any unauthorized aircraft, and yes, that includes those little unmanned drones, crosses the line, they're immediately flagged. And from that very second, military fighter jets are on standby, literally ready to scramble and intercept in minutes. It is an absolute zero-tolerance policy up there.
But let's play devil's advocate. What if a rogue aircraft totally ignores the warnings and the jets just don't have time to get there? Well, the Secret Service actually has surface-to-air weapons at their disposal, specifically the Avenger missile system. It is wild to think about, I know, but there are highly advanced, incredibly lethal anti-aircraft missile batteries tucked away discreetly around the nation's capital. They'll neutralize an airborne threat way before it gets close to the physical structure of the White House. This is military-grade defense seamlessly blended right into a civilian environment.
Which brings us to Section 3, the ground perimeter, breaking the first physical barrier. So what actually happens if an aerial threat is bypassed and someone attempts to hop that iconic iron fence? It kicks off a flawless automated chain reaction. Instantly, invisible infrared sensors that blanket the grounds are triggered. Step 2, boom, high decibel alarms immediately sound across the whole compound. Step 3 happens in the blink of an eye. Elite Secret Service snipers positioned up on the roof lock onto the target. And finally, Step 4, armed ground teams deploy to intercept. The entire choreographed sequence takes mere seconds.
And speaking of those ground teams, you can almost hear the barking, right? Heavily armed guards are immediately backed up by specialized canine units, mostly Belgian Malinois and German Shepherds. These aren't your average pets, they're elite canine athletes trained to detect explosives and neutralize threats on sight. They are conditioned to run down intruders with unbelievable speed and agility, and their noses can pick up the absolute tiniest trace of bomb-making materials. They are a highly effective and frankly terrifying layer of ground defense.
But hey, it's not always about strangers jumping fences. The human element is usually the weakest link in any security system. To counter that, every single staff member, from top advisors to the folks cooking the meals, goes through rigorous background checks. And once you're inside, your access is strictly siloed by a color-coded badge system. If you're cleared for the press briefing room, there is absolutely no way you're just wandering into the West Wing unescorted.
All right, let's step inside the building itself. Section 4, inside the Oval Office, the inner sanctum of presidential security.
When you picture the president sitting at the resolute desk with those beautiful massive windows behind them, it honestly looks pretty exposed. But that aesthetic elegance totally hides the reality. Those windows are an absolute modern engineering marvel. They're constructed from specialized, extra-thick bulletproof glass, specifically designed to take direct hits from high-caliber sniper fire without shattering. The room is literally a glass fortress.
And those invisible layers we talked about? They don't stop at the front door.
The interior corridors and highly sensitive rooms are packed with continuous high-tech monitoring systems. If the building ever went into lockdown, security personnel would know the exact location of a threat based on which hidden pressure pad was stepped on under the floor, or which concealed infrared beam was broken in the hallway.
But you know, security isn't just about stopping bullets and missiles. In our modern world, it also means fighting microscopic threats. Protecting the president means protecting their health from invisible pathogens. During the height of recent global health crises like COVID-19, this meant enforcing relentless surface cleaning, strict distancing protocols, and continuous air purification. Because, let's face it, you can't exactly shoot a virus with an Avenger missile. The security apparatus has to adapt and treat biological hazards with the exact same rigor as physical ones. This microscopic level of security even extends into the kitchen. Food security is a massive deal. First off, intense background checks on the culinary staff. Second, ingredients aren't just dropped off at the front door. They're often secretly procured from off-site locations so no one can tamper with them. And finally, every single meal undergoes rigorous testing for poisons and toxins before it ever hits the dining room table. Finally, we reach the deepest, most secret concentric circle, Section 5, Deep Underground Survival, the final nuclear-resistant redoubts beneath the lawn. If the absolute worst-case apocalyptic scenario actually happens, the president is immediately evacuated to the PEOC, the Presidential Emergency Operations Center. If the airspace is breached, if the ground perimeter fails, if the bulletproof glass isn't enough, this ultra-secure subterranean bunker is the ultimate safe room. It's built specifically to ensure the absolute continuity of the U.S. government during the most catastrophic events imaginable.
The logistics down there, deep beneath the North Lawn, are just staggering. Structurally, it's engineered to withstand direct nuclear blasts. Just think about that level of reinforcement for a second. It has a totally independent, highly filtered oxygen system to keep out biological or chemical fallout. And it's stocked with enough food and water reserves to keep the president and key staff alive and functioning for months, completely cut off from the surface world.
It truly is an incredible architectural marvel. As you can see, it is specifically built to withstand nuclear attacks, providing absolute safety for months without outside contact. It represents the ultimate fallback position when all surface defenses are compromised, the nation's final insurance policy buried deep inside the earth. So, knowing the sheer massive scale of these existing layers, we kind of have to ask, how are these defenses going to adapt to the unknown threats of tomorrow? The White House is a living, breathing security apparatus that has to constantly evolve. As drone swarms, engineered biological threats, and digital cyber attacks get more and more sophisticated, what new invisible layers of defense will the Secret Service have to invent next? It's definitely a chilling thought to leave you with. Thanks for joining us on this explainer, and we'll see you next time.